Hey guys, Mars Noobs about the Gravity Project here, and this video is going to be on Amazon Fury Part 3. So I said I would do this video a while ago, probably a week ago now, but I never got around to it, and I woke up early today, and I figured I'd just knock it out. So first I'm going to talk to you guys about the content that we're getting and all that stuff, and then I'll talk to you about the updates and gear changes that are coming with this DLC itself, not the stat revamp, but those changes. So first, just analyzing this picture, we have Zeus, who is noticeably larger than Wonder Woman, so the gods are bigger than us. And then we have some really cool new ads that are entering the scene. We have Gorgons, and that should be fun. They have some, interesting aesthetics, and some of the gear that we're getting is actually based off of them, so that's pretty cool. So for those of you who don't know, the story so far is basically Ares and Circe capture Hippolyta, and they use her soul to generate and harness a bunch of magical energy that they intend to leash upon the world and, take down Olympus and all these other maniacal, evil, dastardly things. So, pretty generic, just world domination kind of stuff. But there's some pretty cool things that happen and take place. And, yeah. So the foundation of this expansion, or DLC, is that we're going to take on Olympus, which is actually really cool. I think that's kind of what everybody was hoping would happen. That's where we were all hoping it would go. And they do bring in a lot of the big names, like we saw Zeus, and that's really exciting because it could have gone either way. So it looks like we're getting what we wanted. You can see in this picture it's Hecate's room, and Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, and so there's like this kind of cool enchantment that goes on the ceiling, which makes sure that, in her room, it's always nighttime because she harnesses her power from the moon. And so as you can see on these floor panels, there's like these kind of moon phases. And, there's a new moon and like a full moon, waxing, waning, all that cool stuff. And I'm assuming this will be some kind of mechanic for the encounter in terms of how the battle plays out. So, you might have to stand on the floor pads or get away from that floor pad when whatever happens. And yeah, so that's interesting stuff. Mechanics are always nice to have. We also have this room that's just Hephaestus's forge, and there's 3 cyclopes that you encounter in this forge. And in case you didn't know, I'm saying cyclopes because that is the plural for cyclops. So there's 3 cyclopes, oh my god, and you fight 2 of them, like any random 2 in the normal raid, and then all 3 of them in the elite version of the raid. So each Cyclopes has his own relative, or each Cyclops rather, has his own relative power mechanic kind of thing going on, and they all do something separate. And so as you can see, there's like floor panels and wall panels which fire comes out of, and there's a lot of cool stuff that goes on in the encounter. So hopefully it's a fun and challenging boss room. They did make some changes to like how gear drops and all that stuff, and I'll get into that in a second. But first I'm going to show you basically all the content that this DLC encompasses. So we're getting a solo, and that solo is like open world kind of, but then leads into an instance from what I'm gathering, just like the last thing that we got. It was like Supply Catastrophe, I think, and that was Amazon Fury Part 2, and it was like you did some stuff out in Gotham Under Siege, and then you went inside to like a Gotham warehouse and did some other little stuff, and you got your loot at the end. So I'm assuming we'll have something like that again. Then we have a duo, an alert, and then 2 raids, and elite versions of those raids. So that's pretty cool. It's slightly smaller than Amazon Fury Part 2, but we're still getting a nice hefty amount of content, and assuming that you don't spend all your replays in the first day to try to get the full gear, you should have a pretty fun time leveling up. There should be a good amount of progression that goes on. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about the gear progression and the changes that they're making. So as far as color and item level go, that stuff is remaining the same. So green is still the weakest of gear drops you can get, blue is the middle tier of gear drops, and purple is the best gear drop that you can get. Something to note is that this time around you can get any color from any instance, and so what I mean by that is essentially you could only get purple gear from the highest content of the DLC that you were running. So when we got monthly content, be it an alert or a raid, you could only get purple gear from those instances. And back in the day, raids are the highest content, and you were, only going to see purple gear from those raids. But now you can get purple gear from a solo if you get really lucky. You can get purple gear from a duo if you get lucky, and you can see it in an alert and a raid. So as far as I know, the higher difficulty instances are still more inclined to yield you better gear. So you have a better chance of getting purples in a raid or an alert. But you do have the potential to get purple gear from a solo or a duo, which is pretty cool. Another thing to note is that your gear is scaling this time around. So your drops aren't they don't have a hard cap. So when a DLC would come out previously, let's say Amazon Fury Part 1, right? That gear I believe was 101 gear. The green gear was 101, and then the gear that you could buy from the vendor was 102. So it was like they had a hard cap in terms of item level. It wasn't going to go any higher. Now the gear that you get is granted to you based off of your average item level. So you can go into the duo day one with, let's say, 175 CR, and the stuff you'll get might be, what's the gear that we have right now, like 153, 150, all that stuff. So the stuff you get might be like 152, 153. As your CR progresses, you can do that same instance and get higher gear because it's raising with your average CR. So that's pretty cool. We're going to see the best gear on the vendor, and this kind of goes back to tier 3 and tier 4, where you basically did the content and got some pretty good gear from the higher end stuff, but the best gear you could get was from the vendor. So that's cool to go back to that. Completing content will now yield you renown, and so that's kind of another old concept, getting renown. And basically you get renown after completing elite versions of the instances, the raids. And what that renown does is once you have enough of it, you are eligible to buy elite gear. So you're not getting elite gear from drops anymore. You're now getting elite gear from vendors, which is pretty cool because that allows everybody to get full elite, given that they want it. And I can't see why you wouldn't. So now it's like you have 2 sets of gear to work towards, not just for the stats, but also the styles, because elite styles are usually more aesthetically pleasing. So that's cool. You have 2 sets of gear to work towards, and everybody now has the capacity to get the best gear. Last but not least is Omnipotence gear. We're seeing a change. Instead of it being a super ultra rare drop that's kind of painstakingly hard to get and ends up wasting a good portion of your money if you do that kind of thing, you can now get elite pieces after you get a full set of either regular or elite gear. So that's a little important tad right there, regular or elite. And after you get a full set of that, you will be granted different drops from different bosses that work towards collections that can yield Omnipotence gear, which is actually tradable. So them being tradable can kind of go either way, but it is intended to help the economy, and I kind of have a video coming out talking about things that may benefit the economy but not hurt the player base. And I mean, it's not to say that Omnipotence gear would do that, but now this gives people the opportunity to run on their alts, and for the people who have a plethora of alts and also run with good players, they'll get all the Omnipotence gear and sell it and have a bunch of money, but their character will still be geared, which is not a bad thing. So that's pretty much all for this DLC and its content. I'm Mars Noobside with the Gravity Project. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. I hope this helped you figure out what was going on during this DLC, and now you're more informed on the changes to gear and what we'll be getting during this DLC. I'll be back with a few videos, and I will see you all next time.